Okay, so for today, the first challenge was to get everybody into a graphing calculator. Those that didn't have one already on their desk, we had to go to the folder called Welcome, and then there's a yellow folder inside there, and I made the link work then, and yay, now everybody's in a graphing calculator. You just have to hit OK a bunch of times, and then there's a little icon of a calculator, and you click that. All right, so you're going to have to be able to write the recursive formulas for these things and then figure out an amount. An amount? What do you mean? Well, let's say it's an investment. Right now would be a great time, probably, to buy stocks because they just went down a lot. They've kind of had a bunch of really bad days in a row, okay? And so your principal is what that's called. And let's say you've got $1,000 saved up. You put 1,000 in, and then all of a sudden, you've seen this before, U sub 1 is 1,000. And this is what's called a shifted geometric because you're going to multiply by 1 plus, this is the U sub n, you know, and here's the 1 plus the rate, AR stands for annual rate. And let's say that you think you can get 7% growth in your stocks. Then your AR would be 0.07. And now it's 1 plus 0.07. You've seen that before. Here's what you have never done before. And I talked about this ahead of time. I said, if you were in honors, you'd be dividing by, like, the frequency. Frequency could be monthly. Let's put a 12, just everybody write a 12 over the F. And D is your deposit that you're going to make each month. You started with the principal of 1,000 because you had saved up 1,000 already. And now let's say that I think I can afford to add 200 a month to it. That's where you add money each month. That's how often you're going to add money. Probably like monthly. This is what your rate is, and it's always 1 plus. Notice that's not a variable. That's always 1 plus the rate and the months, or you could do it 4 times a year instead of monthly. And then this is a monthly deposit. This goes with this. So if this is monthly, then this is monthly. All right. I'm going to make another one. U sub 0 equals 2,000. U sub n equals, you may just watch this one, and I'm going to ask you a question about it. How much money did this person start with? Kennedy?
2,000.
Good, 2,000. How much did they add every month? Taylor?
50.
Yep. How could I tell it was monthly? Sage?
Is this on the flip side?
That 12 right there tells me it's monthly.
Oh.
And Studer, what's that 0.09 doing?
It's the rate.
It's the rate. So this person thinks they're going to get 9% annual rate, not monthly rate. Nobody does a monthly interest rate, but they do annual interest rates. Okay. All right. Do you see how I set that up? There's always a U sub 0. Why is 0? Because there's something going to happen between when you put in the money and when you have your first month. You know what's going to happen? You're going to get 9% interest for that month. And so that's why we start these with U sub 0 instead of U sub 1. All right, so there's my equation. That's one thing you need to know. Now we need to be able to put this thing into the special thing called an app. Everybody go to this page. Do you see how it's telling you to find the apps? It's right there. Okay, so you're going to go into your iPad or on your actual real calculator and hit the apps button. Then you're going to choose finance. Then you're going to choose TVM solver. It's the very first thing in each of the menus. That means it's their best app. Think about it. If they're arranged all their apps and they put this in the number 1 spot on each of their menus, then they think that's the one they're going to use the most. It is a very powerful app, TVM solver. TVM, time, value, money. This is a very big industry. So if you have, let's say I said, I'm going to give you $100. And then you're like, cool, okay, where is it? And I say, I'm gonna give it to you in 100 years. You'd be like, what? I thought you meant like now. I'm not even gonna be alive in 100 years. Do you get, there's a time value to money? Like, I might have $100, but it might not be here and now, so then it's not worth that much. Okay, imagine for a moment that you had $100 and you could go back in time with your $100. Is it worth more or is it worth less? It's worth way more. My dad, or my mom used to tell me about Coke was a nickel. You go into the store, and if you wanna buy a pop like this, got a Diet Dew here. This used to literally cost 5 cents. Okay, now it costs $2. You can imagine if you could take your present money that you have right now and go back in time with it, it'd be worth a lot more. So isn't there a time component to money? Do you get that in the future? Let's say $1 American dollar might not buy you very much in the future. It might only be worth a penny. Like right now, if you had a penny, you'd be like, it's not even worth picking up off the street. I do just because for the principle of it, but if there's a penny on the ground, it's probably not worth your time to pick it up. Well, the same thing's gonna be true in a few years about dollars. They'll be worth way less. I'm not saying next year or the year after that, but when you're older, you'd be like, $1, that's not worth anything anymore. It used to be I could get a candy bar for it. When you're old, you'll be like, yeah, I used to be able to go in the store and $1 would get you a candy bar. And your kids will be like, or your kids' kids, your grandkids will be like, you could actually get like a whole candy bar for $1? Because dollars will be worth very, very little. How do I know this? Because that's the way it's been since the beginning of time. Like we bought Alaska for just a few $1 million. That's so little money in today's money. So, all right, so now that you're in that app, here's how to use it. Do you see the N and the I and the PV and the PMT? We need to know what all of these things are. Okay? So just to make sure, would you start copying what you see here? So like put 480 for your number of periods. If you've gotten lost, we're under apps and you just hit enter because it's the top menu until you see this screen that's got N equals on top. 480 I, what do you think I is? What's the interest rate? 7%. PV, present value of 0. That means you have $0 presently. Like you're gonna invest some money, but you have none right now. All right, please enter these as you see them. And I know there's one of them you can't do. You can just kind of arrow past it. Leave 0 in there. If like it won't let you leave the cell and you have to put something, put 0. Until you got all of these in there. Make sure the PMT at the end says end, and then just show me that screen. I'm gonna pause for a second to make sure you're in the right spot. You guys were way above average on getting those in. That's awesome. Future value is 0. That's the weird one. If you're going to make payments of 150 and you have this 480 months to do it, well, something's gonna happen. Like you're gonna not have 0 at the end. Okay? So you're depositing 150 a month for 40 years. That's a long time. So how do we figure out the future value? That's the key right there. It's not going to be 0. What you do is you go on top of that. Everybody arrow and get the cursor right on top of that. And then you do this thing called alpha solve. Do you know that there's a solve key right above enter? You may have never used it before in your life. Right above enter. You see the word solve? So you hit alpha and then you hit the enter key and that does solve. Now, on your screen, it should have said what the future value is. All right. It's spring, so. Humphreys, what'd you get?
I'm having trouble
Okay, so do you get the cursor on future value?
Cursor? What do you mean by?
Okay, the blinky light.
Oh yeah.
Okay, get it on future value. Then you do alpha key and then the solve, which is right above enter. Sage, did you get it to work?
Yeah.
What did it say?
393,722.0098.
I got 393722.
0.0098.
Okay, so since this is in dollars, would you agree that once it went 00, that means we can probably round to this? $393,000. That's a lot of moolah. Let's process that for a minute. You're only putting in $150 a month. Do you think you could do that? Do you think you could find a job? I've always used this example because it's so fresh. Just last summer, my daughter, she made $2,000 over one summer walking people's pets and or babysitting people's pets when they're on vacation. Because people want to go on vacation and like, what do I do with Fluffy? And you could either take Fluffy at your house or you can go to their house and take care of Fluffy and poof, you make good money. So I'm just telling you, I think you could save up $150 a month if you wanted to. And if you kept doing this every month for 40 years, well, yeah, you're going to be 40 years older 40 years from now. That's going to happen. 40 years is going to happen. It's just whether or not you're going to be saving and investing during that time. All right, so am I saying that every single person on earth can save $150 a month? No. Some people can save more than that. Some people can save less than that. Some people might have to work 2 jobs just to be able to make barely enough money to like stay even. Okay, so I get that. But for you right now, living at mom and dad's house, which is what most of you are doing, you might be able to pull this off better than even mom and dad might. So you might be able to take a second job, mow lawns, whatever it is, to get $150 a month. All right, when you're older and you've got a job after, let's say you've gone to college for a while, I want you to try changing that payment to negative $400 a month. Everybody change this to negative $400. Now, this is not a spreadsheet. It won't instantly change your answer. So go change the negative 150 to negative 400, and then you got to go back down to future value and hit alpha solve again. I really wish this was like a spreadsheet that just instantly changed it, but it's not. What is your new future value? Olivia, you got it? What was it?
100.
Oh, I think that's a million.
No, a million.
Keep going.
49,925.36.
And I haven't been around to the nearest dollar. Did I do it right? 104,925?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Do you get you're a millionaire? That's all it takes. About $400 a month. 40 years from now. You know what a lot of people say? You know what? I'll do that, but not now. I'll do that, but I'll start that someday. Like, and then they just never get around to it because they're like busy with other things and like, oh, I wanted to buy this or I wanted to buy that. So they won't have 480 months because they'll be like, well, I waited for 20 years and then I started saving. It's going to be way less. Would you go change this 480 to, now let me show you something. It's kind of cool. Just delete out the 480. You can say, I want it to be 20 years. So you go 20 times, it's a calculator for Pete's sakes. It can times. 20 times 12 months in a year. So that's 20 times 12. You enter and it automatically knows what 20 times 12 is. Know what I mean? You don't have to figure that out in your head and then type it in. You can just type 20 times 12. Now alpha solve it, and it isn't $1 million anymore. It's way less. You would think since it was half the amount of time, it'd be half the amount of money. It's way less. Taylor, what'd you get now?
200,370.
You're reading the digits. 2, 8, 370. Wait a minute. We had half the amount of time, but we only got 1/4 the amount of money. It's how exponential works. It grows steep. So you might be thinking, well, then what if we did even more time than normal? Everybody go to 50 years from now, which is when you will be about 65. 50 years from now. Change the 20 to a 50 times 12. What is that, 600? Okay, and then alpha solve again. How much you got now? Yes?
I get $2,179,228.36.
I got 2179, and I got stuck. Can you read me the last three? 2179.
2179228.
Thank you. I'll stop there. No, three?
228.
228. Okay. I just heard it wrong. All right, there we go. About 2 million. You got twice as much money for just starting an extra or keeping with it for an extra couple of years. Do you think 400 a month is doable? Well, I don't know. Maybe not for you right now, but just so you know, hi there. All right, there you go. Do you think that, for instance, a starting teacher makes about $45,000 a year. That is about 10% of your like pay. Okay, so even a teacher could do this. They could possibly do the 400 a month. What if you were a teacher who was married to another teacher and you were saving? Well, you could definitely do it then because you got two people that are sharing the same house and stuff, and it makes it easier to do. Okay, so moral of the story, you can change these numbers to be anything that you want and see what happens. You want to know how Warren Buffett got to be the richest man in the world? He's not somebody who started rich. He really didn't. He literally would tell you, with a paper route. He got paid by a newspaper to deliver papers to people's houses, and then he started investing. And he bought companies, and he bought the companies had his companies buy other companies, and eventually he invested in so many things with over time, a long time. The dude's 90, okay? And he's been investing since he was your age. And he averaged 20% a year, not 7%. So let's imagine one of the next Warren Buffett of the world is sitting in the room right now. Would you please go and change this top number to, instead of 50 years, he's 90 and he started at about 15. Okay, so that would make him 75 plus that would mean for you to be him, you have about 75 years. 75 times 12 months. And he got not 7%, he got 20%. Because he was way better than average at it. He was like the man when it came to picking like good things to buy. He was very good at picking. You've probably got friends who are, like super good at basketball, or maybe they're just amazing at running. I had a friend who just naturally, he could run like a deer. He just looked different than like anybody else when he ran. He was just smooth and like amazing. Lee, if you're listening, I'm talking about you. Lee was just like the most amazing running machine. Well, anyway, Warren was really good at picking companies to invest in. So he got 20% average. Would you please tell me, after you alpha solve, if you got 20% average on that 400 a month payment, negative 400, and you do it for 75 years, it's a lot. You got it?
I got 6.9 times 10 to the 10.
So 6.9, and then it says E10, which means move it over 10 spots. So there I go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Holy cow, that's a lot of money. So many zeros. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 zeros. So I'm going to put commas in now to be able to read it. Comma, comma, comma. And that would be $69 billion, which is actually not that far off from what the dude is worth. So, you want to be the next Warren Buffett? Third richest man in the world right now? That's all you got to do. $400 a month. And people will tell you, well, you can't do that because, well, who says you can't do that? Maybe you'll do better than 20% a month. Maybe you'll figure out things that are even smarter to invest in. I know. That's the hard part. You're all probably going to live 75 more years. Really, you probably will. That's normal. For your age group, you're supposed to live that long. If you didn't know that, that's your life expectancy. We're probably going to live another 75 years. And the hard part is getting 20% interest. But if you could, that could be how much money you'd have. All right. And a lot of you would be like, I totally get this too. I'm sick of just saving the money. I'd like to spend some. That totally can happen, but then you got to increase how much you save too. Because like this $400 a month, do you get once you've gotten kind of rich, you could probably increase that, start saving more every month. And then you could also maybe spend some of your money. You could do both. Okay, so moral of the story, you guys could all, I really am convinced of this, and it sounds ludicrous, but everybody in this room, you could be a millionaire. I just want to give you the bad news part of that is, a lot of people will be millionaires and it won't be as cool anymore because $1 million won't be worth as much as it is right now. You know what I mean? Like right now, a millionaire sounds like, whoo-hoo, I can buy whatever I want. But a bunch of years from now, it won't be worth as much because of inflation. That's just how that works. Like, my dad bought his house for $13,000. That used to be enough to buy a house. Now it's not even close to enough to buy a house. So $13,000 used to be like, holy cow, you have $13,000. That's crazy. Now it's like, that's not that big of a deal. After a teacher might have saved that up after a couple of years. Not that big of a deal because of inflation. Okay. I'll give you a different kind of question. This is investing still, so we're going to go past this slide, go to this slide. When they ask you how much was made in interest, what you have to do is figure out how much did you actually deposit of that money. You know that deal where Warren Buffett had $69 million? Did he actually put into his investment $69 million? No, he only put in $400 a month. You see what I mean by that? He didn't actually put all that in there. It's because it grew. That's why it's worth so much. All right, so I'd like to do an example like that. Everybody change your numbers to be back to more realistic. Shouldn't talk 75 years. That's a long time. And we shouldn't talk 20% interest because that's a lot. But let's do 40 years again. And the stock market's average over time has been about 8%. Just in the last couple of days, that average has decreased. But let's say it's 8% interest. And that's investing in stocks over the long haul, on average. If you change it to this, and the negative, just make it $400 a month, deposits. Would you see what that one comes to? Alpha solve. 8% interest, 40 years. That's 40 times 12 on that top line. Humphreys, what'd you get?
I got
Just read me the digits.
14057.487.
And let's stop because it's rounded to the nearest dollar. That's $1.4 million. Holy crap, that's a lot of money. But how much did you put in? You put in this many payments of 400. So here's how you do that. 40 times 12 was the 480. I made 480 payments of 400. You go 480 times 400, and then you know how much you actually put in. Everybody do that. 480 times 400. Over those 40 years, you actually put in Olivia, what'd you get?
Haven't done
It's 400 times 480. I'll come back to you. Let's go with Sage. What'd you get for how much did you put in? Thank you. That's how much you put in, but this is how much you've got. Look at the difference. You only put in 192, but you got 1.4 million. That's the magic of compounding interest. If the dude had just dug a hole in his backyard and put that in the hole, that's all he'd have is 192,000. $400 every month, just sticks it in the hole. You'd have 192,000. But if you invest it, 1.4 million. The difference, you actually subtract the two, and that's how you get how much you made in interest. So you go 1405. I'll do this one for you. 1405, 712 minus the 192. I get 1,215,712. Almost all the money was from interest. Do you see why people like to invest their money instead of just digging a hole in the backyard? Unless you just wanted the 192 safe and sound. All right. It's right over there. No problem. Okay, so for those of you that were like, just got lost there, this was the big number that we got at the end. That's how much money we had at the end of the problem. But this is how much we put in, and this is how much was interest. And they add up to the big number. How did we get this? We knew how many months we had deposited and how much we deposited each month. You just had to multiply those together. Okay? All right. So we're going to skip this one because, frankly, we've done this kind of investment problem over and over again. We got to get the other kind. And if I just looked at this, though, what does that mean? 24 chickens? 24 what? Hey, we just did a bunch of problems like this. What does it mean? Yes.
24 months.
24 months. Good. What does that mean? Yes. 7% interest or investment interest. PV means presently you have, why do they say negative 1,000? That's weird. We got to talk about that. Because it came out of your checking. You had to write the check, so it came out of your checking, your actual money you have, and it goes over into the investment. That's why it's negative. Why are the payments negative? Because they come out of your checking account, you know, your balance, how much money you have. It comes out of your money, and it goes over into the investment. I know that's your money too, but that's the way they do it. So if it's negative, it means it's coming out of your regular, normal money that you make each month, and it's going over to this other place. That's why it's negative. All right, future value. That means that it would be worth $3,717 someday. And this is just how many payments we make per year and how many compounds per year. You'll always keep those as a 12 unless we tell you it's not monthly. We always do our payments at the end of the month too, which is kind of weird, but I've seen that for other people's mortgages. A lot of times they make payments at the end of the month, not the beginning. Okay. Now let's see if you can use that program to answer this question without me telling you where to stick stuff. You're supposed to be able to figure out where to stick stuff. Use that same app on the calculator. Put the right things in the right place. Pause for a second. And really you're just how much you're going to have after 10 years. Now, would you compare your answer to the kid sitting next to you? Just like show them your calculator and see if you guys got the same thing. After you typed it in, just compare it to the kid next to you. Pausing for a second. So, a lot of kids were not sure if they did it right. So here's what you should have done. What is your N, your number of months? I don't even know what 10 years is unless I think about it. I go 10 times 12, so yeah, that's 120. I could have done that in my head, but I might as well make the calculator do it. Do you get that's 10 years is 10 times 12 is 120 is your N. Next is the interest rate. Thomas, what was the interest rate here? Got to come back with me. Just look up the interest rate. It's on this green slide. I'll come back to you on a different question, I guess. Atis, interest rate? 4.2. Good. After interest rate comes like present value. Kennedy, what'd you put for present value?
I put negative 1,500.
Yep, because you put it in there out of your normal money. That's why it's negative 1500. If you've been using the wrong minus key, it just won't calculate. You got to use the negative key at the bottom, not the minus key that's on the right side. Use the negative key on the bottom. All right, so it's PV, and then there's, what comes after PV, Connor?
PMT,
And what does that mean?
present money.
It, kind of. That's the payment that you make. How much payments are you supposed to make?
12.
There's 12 payments, but of how much? I just underlined it up there.
0.
Yes, that's why you're confused there. You don't make extra payments. No additional money. Okay, what comes after payment, Alexis?
The future value.
FV, future value. And that's where you start with 0, and then you do alpha solve, and you get this number. All right, is there anybody that doesn't see how we got 2281 now? Okay. All right, cool. That's a typical question. Except wait, there's no test for this unit. What? It's because instead you are going to do basically like a long worksheet that's going to be a project. You might, for example, your project, this isn't going to be your project, but it could be kind of like this. You fully investigate, okay, there's this car. Let's say I want to buy this car. I could either borrow the money for the car, and this is how I would set up my loan thing, or I'm going to save up money for this car. So I'm going to start saving $400 a month until I finally have enough to buy the car. So it's a project where you'll be making something kind of real world, somewhat interesting to you. Maybe it's a boat that you would love to own. How much would you have to save for it? How much would the payments be if you bought it today with a loan? That kind of thing. Okay? All right. Now, one thing we haven't done at all is loans. All we do is investments. This one's another deposit one. So let's see if we get to a loan. Nope, this one's also an investment. All right, let's try this one though, because I think we're pretty much done. I think we're going to save loans for tomorrow. So use the little app I just showed you to answer this question. You start with 200, you get 4.8% interest, and each year, so you're 12 all of a sudden? Isn't 12 anymore. Each year, you're going to deposit another 100. Don't do this in months anymore. Do it in 1 year at a time. So wherever there was a 12 before, for 12 months, now it's just 1 year. See if you can figure it out. Your N is now how many years? It's not months, it's years. So 10 years, so it's just a simple 10. Remember, we're not doing months because it said so. It said each year you are going to deposit another 100. Okay, there's part of this I've been kind of ignoring, and I want you to see it. U0 was your starting amount, 200. What always comes next? UN equals UN minus 1. 1 plus the rate, 0.048, over normally 12 months, but I just said it's going to be 1 month. Sorry, 1 year, not 12 months. We're not using months this problem. And this is where our deposit would go, an extra 100, so it goes here. That's the recursive equation for it. So how much will you have in 10 years? Your N is 10. What comes after N, Connor?
Interest.
What is the I?
4.8.
4.8. What's the next thing that happens?
Present value.
PV. What is it?
Negative 100. Or would it be
It's negative 100. You're right. No, 200.
200?
Because Grandma gave you 200.
Oh, yeah.
So negative 200. What's after PV? What letter is after PV?
Oh, PV. PMT.
Okay, what's that stand for? Pig market? What do you think PMT is?
I forget.
Payment.
Payments. Okay.
And how much is the payments?
Negative 100.
Yep, you're gonna put in another 100. Notice that's minus 100. What's the next thing?
FV.
What's that stand for?
Future value.
Good. And we don't know, so we use alpha solve, and what did you get?
That's a good question. I haven't gotten there just yet.
All right, so go ahead, type them in, hit alpha solve, which is right above the enter key. Taylor, why don't you tell me what you got?
1,226.
Okay, anybody verify 1226? Yay. Now, did you put in all 1226? No. Remember that what you put in is a very much smaller than that. You put in the 200 up front, plus you had 10 payments of 100. I can do that in my head, can you? 10 payments of 100 is $1,000. 200 that you put in the first place, you put in 1,200. That makes sense? What you started with, plus your payments. And there's 10 of them. So that's how much you put in, but you got actually 1226. Then you made 26 bucks in interest. That's pretty lame. Why is it so little in interest? Because they're only giving you 4.8%, and you didn't have that much in at the beginning. You only had 200 bucks in the bank, so it's not like they should give you a lot of money interest. So how did we get to 1,200? I knew that we had put in this 200 and 10 payments of 100. That's how I got to 1,200. Okay, I think this is good. I'm going to pause for a second before I tell the homework.